And I'll never forget, so outside, he takes me aside before we get into the rooms, and he goes, here's $300, have fun, and I want you to get a hooker. And I go, yes, Papa.
Here's the show. It's very simple. It's just a bunch of funny people, and we're all telling true stories. Please, give a warm round of applause to Mr. Barry Rothbard. Let him hear it.
You know, I don't talk about my family a lot, and a lot of people, we'll start with, a lot of people ask me, how I'm so good at sex, and it's true. A lot of people are like, we're big fans. We know your hips don't lie. But it's because I learned about it a lot from a young age. And to give you a little background, I was a fucking strange kid. I was a fat kid. I had a ponytail. I wore huge hand-me-down glasses and really tight members-only jackets. So at the age of 9, I was a pedophile. I was a 9-year-old pedophile. I did pedophile things. I couldn't play with other kids. I would stand at the edge of playgrounds watching other kids play. I was a fucking weird kid. And I didn't realize it, but for a lot of my childhood, you get to that point where you're just you realize your parents are just fucking weirdos. You're they just are people that we know that are weird, they shit and, that's the only example I can think of. But I found out at some point, and this is pretty crazy, but my dad was a degenerate gambler. He was a bookie for the Gambino crime family in New York, one of the biggest bookies. And if you were in the Gambino crime family in the 90s, that was the fucking crime family you wanted to be in. I don't want to brag, but that was the Michael Jordan of crime families. So I didn't know that for a while, but my dad was had this whole criminal life. And I started to find out because for my whole life, he lied to me and said he was a music producer, which is a strange lie, because that's something you brag to your friends about. If he was an accountant, he's just another dude. But I was my dad's a music producer, and he would make these strange lies. He'd be hey, I could get you Bon Jovi tickets. And I'd tell my friends, hey, we could get Bon Jovi tickets. And he'd be couldn't get them. What? Just don't say anything. But he was a decent dad. He was a good dad. We had a decent relationship. And I wanted to be, when I figured out what he did and he was a criminal, I wanted that lifestyle. The Sopranos was on TV. This was a cool time to be a criminal. And then for my 18th birthday, he decides to take me to Atlantic City. And he gets myself and my friend Ben a room, and he gets the room next to us because when you gamble away your family's money, they give you free rooms in Atlantic City. And I'll never forget, so outside, he takes me aside before we get into the rooms, and he goes, here's $300, have fun, and I want you to get a hooker. This is for my 18th birthday. I want you to get a hooker. And I go, yes, Papa. Papa, yes, Papa. This was in the late 1800s. I go, Papa, yes. I will do that for you. Hooker. And then there was a list of 2 other things, as if hooker wasn't the most interesting part of it. He was just and there's an arcade downstairs. And I was you just said hooker. But he had gotten so many hookers in his life, he didn't even realize it was a weird thing. And I go, of course I'll get a hooker. And then I go into the room where my friend Ben is waiting. I go, Ben, we're going to get a hooker. And he looks at me and goes, how does one get a hooker? And I go, I don't know. And that's where this story starts to get weird. So we decide to get all hooker ready. We're putting cologne on. We're putting on suits. As if a hooker would be they ain't dressed too well. So we were getting all ready. And it's 6 p.m. We're we're going to go downstairs and find a hooker. And I don't know if you've ever been to Atlantic City, but everyone looks like a hooker. Everyone's a hooker. Men, women, children. There's some slot machines that looked like fucking hookers. And we were just like, I don't know how to do this. So then we come up with the idea, let's get drunk and smoke some pot. So we go upstairs and we got drunk, we smoked some pot, and then we were like, let's just open the yellow pages, right? It'll probably be in there. We look under hooker, nothing. We look under prostitute, nothing. Then we get to escort, and there's a bunch of photos of hookers. So we call one up, and the girl, the woman, she answers, she goes, hey, what do you need? And we're like, do you have hookers? And she goes, no, we have escorts, though. And we go, is that the same thing as hookers? And she goes, yeah. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. So we're like, oh, yeah, we'd love one. She goes, what height? And we're like, medium. And she's like, what about boobs? And we're like, yeah, we'd love boobs. Wait, what do you have, girls with no boobs? I don't want those girls. Keep your weird no-boob girls to yourselves. So, and then, we're feeling like the men, and we're like, what do you, so you're going to send it? And she's like, yeah, it's $100 an hour per person. And we're like, cool, we share a hooker. That's awesome. And she was like, okay, we're sending a girl over. And I hung up the phone. I'll never forget. At that point, I was like, oh, fuck, we're getting a hooker. Like, I don't know how many people here have gotten hookers. Cool, one honest dude. You guys are liars. You guys, are you clapping for him or the concept of me asking someone that? So it's a weird, like there's gonna be a human being that's gonna come to the door and be like, fuck me. I guess that's not exactly how it happens, but that's how I pictured it. And we're like, we should get higher, which is a strange decision for when a hooker's on the way. So we get higher, and I'm getting to the point where like, I'm like afraid of things. Like I'm afraid of furniture. Like I'm like hiding behind a table. I'm like, this is gonna be so weird. And then finally I'm like perched on a couch and there's a knock at the door and my friend's like, I'll take care of this. And he opens the door and I'll never forget what was standing outside of that door. And I can only describe this woman as picture your mother's friends. That's it. She was just shapes. She was like an older woman. And my friend closed the door and he comes over. He's like, what do we do? What do we do about this? And I was like, I don't know, man. I'm freaking out. Like my mom's friend Carla is standing out there. I don't know what to do. So we're huddling and he's like, he looked at me, he goes, I'll take care of this. And he goes to the door, opens the door, looks this hooker dead in the eyes and just goes, this isn't what we ordered. Like a pizza. Like he was like, anchovies? Nope. That's not what we wanted. I was like, what a badass. And she just looked at him and went, okay, give me 2 minutes. And she walked away. And we were like, what now? Where does this go? There's a level 2 to this game? I thought the game was over. Then there's another knock at the door and we open it and this woman was like, compared to the first one, like a real fox, but still wasn't attractive at all. Like, when someone's like hot at the DMV, they're like DMV hot. It's like compared to everyone around them, they're just like, yeah, she's attractive. And she just walked in. She just stepped right in. And she's like, hey guys, what's going on? And we're like, oh, hey. And we had just a bottle of vermouth. We just like gave her like a shot of vermouth. We're just like, hey, what's up? Yeah, we're just a bunch of dudes. We look like old men from the 70s. We're wearing like loafers with no socks. And they're like, so she was like, what do you guys do for a living? And I go, I'm a cameraman for The Daily Show. And then my friend goes, I'm a zoologist. I was like, you could use zoologist? I'm talking about like a union job. You're talking about like saving penguins? You know what zoologists do? And she's like, oh, cool. And we're like, what do you do? And she's like, I'm an architect. And we're like, yeah, right. So she's sipping her vermouth. And then she shows us a picture of her daughter. And we were like, oh, no. This is too weird now. This is so strange. So we're like, we can't do this. And we have another huddle. Like, we're just like standing there, huddled, talking again. And my friend's like, I can't have sex with her. I'm like, I can't either. I wasn't just going to do it if you weren't. And I'm like, all right, I think I have an idea how to get us out of this. And I leave the room, and you know that, like, I don't know if you guys have fathers, but there's a moment where you really bond with your dad. I went over to my dad's room, I knocked on his door, and I'll never forget, he opened the door and he goes, "What is it, son?" And I go, "Papa." "Papa, I have a problem. There's a prostitute in my room, and she's DMV hot, and I don't want to have sex with her." And I'll never forget, he looked me in the eyes, he goes, "Don't worry, I'll take care of this. Send her to my room." And I did! And I spent the rest of the night listening to my dad have sex with a prostitute. And I remember thinking, I'm gonna be a weird adult. Thank you guys very much.